Hey, how's it going? Dan from modular.dev here. Today we're just gonna build upon the chat application that we started last time. In case you didn't see the last one, I'll just give you a quick overview of what we did last time. So I gave a quick introduction to Blazor, which is a SPA framework that Microsoft is putting together, kind of competing with React and Vue and Angular and that type of thing. And so we see here when we first launch the page, we have this hello world thing, and we can switch between these pages, and the screen never really refreshes the entire screen. It just changes the part in the middle, which is pretty consistent with how a SPA would work. A single page application is what that stands for. So we started off last time creating a chat room for basically people that want to chat back and forth using Blazor and using SignalR as a WebSocket connection. So if you, right now, we can come in here and we can do a test message, and we can see it down here. And now if we open it up in another tab, right now we don't see the original message, but if we type another person and we do a test again, we will see this message, and on this screen this person sees both. So in real time we're getting these new messages back and forth, which is what we want. Now obviously we have a problem here, and that's the original message in the chat room doesn't show up to the person that just came in. Maybe this is what you want, maybe not, but we're gonna fix this so that they can see the entire chat. Ideally you'd store this in the database somewhere, but we're just going to store it in memory for this. Maybe in the future we'll store it in the database. And the next thing I want to do too is create multiple rooms so that you can get messages and notifications in whatever rooms you are currently subscribed to. So with that being said, the first thing I want to do then is try to get it when somebody new comes in, they can see all of the messages that the previous people have typed. So to do that, we're going to go into the server application, because all of the data would need to be stored on the server, right? And we want to go into this startup class, because what we want to do basically is use dependency injection, which basically is going to be a class that we're going to give to the application, and it's going to remember it throughout the entire lifetime of the application, and that will be injected into whatever controller that we use. So let's just go ahead and create a new, well, they gave us this weather forecast controller. I don't think I really want to use that one, so let's just create a new one. Chat controller. Okay. And if you saw what I just did there and you're wondering what that is, that's Shift F2, add new file. That is an extension that you can get from the Manage Extensions on the Visual Studio Marketplace. It makes it a lot quicker to, it's this one here by Mads Christensen. It makes it a lot quicker to add a new file to your project. So that's what I like to use. So anyway, we have this chat controller, and we're going to try to kind of mimic what this weather forecast controller was doing, because this was an API that we could call in Blazor WebAssembly to get some information. So I'm just going to copy this stuff, and we'll change some of it here in just a second. Get rid of that, and quick actions and refactorings, we're going to add this using here. Okay, so now our controller is all set up. I also want to get just a method. We'll just say get. That's fine. And I also want to create a constructor for this class. Okay, I'll get rid of this for now. Okay, so I think we need to create two things. One is a data object to store our chat information, so who sent it and what did they say. And the second thing would be somehow to remember that between the different screens. So let's go ahead and I'm going to create a folder in here for data, and I'll just call this chat data. So in here, we basically just want two things. We want the user and the message. And actually, you know what? This probably should be in the shared project because we're going to use this in the client as well. We're going to use this in WebAssembly. So I'm going to actually move this over to the shared client. All right, and I'm going to delete that other one. I'll just delete the entire folder. That way we can use it in both places. That's kind of what the shared one is for. So let's go ahead and just try mocking up something here in the get method. So in the get method, we're going to return an IEnumerable, which is basically just a list or something that you can enumerate through. We're going to do chat data here, and I'll have to add that using statement. And I'm just going to make something up for now. So we're going to return a new list, chat data. Oops. And in here, we're going to do a new chat data where the user is me and the message is hello world. Okay. We're going to see if we can get that at least to show up in the room when we first get there. If we do, that'll be a good starting point to storing the other messages that get sent through. So in Blazor, how you do that is http.get from JSON async, and this HTTP client gets injected up here. So when we register this program, we're actually, this was all by default whenever you start a new Blazor WebAssembly project. A new HTTP client got added here in the services for this application. So I'm going to kind of mimic that thing as well. So let me grab that and put it in the rooms on initialized async. That's where we want. On initialized async is going to get run before anything gets passed to the user. So as long as we get this information before this function concludes, it'll be out there for them to see right when they load the page. So a couple things we need to do. We need to add chat data here, and IntelliSense knew that it was in that namespace, so that's good. And then we're gonna have to inject that same HTTP client as the other one. So I'll just copy that inject code as well. Okay, so we got our HTTP client, and we need to set up a variable to store this in. So we'll just make a private chat data, and you know what? Just because I keep using this, I'm going to put this up here at the top under using. That way I don't have to keep writing that all the time. Okay, private chat data, array, previous chats, and we'll just set that equal to null for now. So when we finish this on initialized async, we're going to set that equal to previous chats. And then in here, we need to change this. This is the actual URL that gets called. If we don't specify any HTTP or anything like that, we're just going to use the base address of this HTTP client, which is just, if you notice here in this program.cs, we got this base address. New URI builder.hostenvironment.base address, which is a long way to say just our current website host. So I'm going to basically append onto that the name of this controller, which is chat. And that should be able to get into this chat controller. Okay. Now, we have, assuming that works, we have a list of previous chats. So, what we want to do with that is we want to add to our messages the same way we would do as if we were to receive a message from the chat bot or the chat application. So previously we were taking in a user and a message and putting the user with a colon after it and then the message and then adding it to this list here. So we want to do that same thing. So and you should probably always double check that this is not equal to null. So if for each of our previous chat in previous chats, we're going to add to that messages list. And here instead of user, it's going to be previous chat.user, and here instead of message, it's going to be previous chat.message. So if everything went correctly, now when we go to the room, we're going to see one thing in our chat to begin with, and that's going to be me saying hello world. So let's try that out. All right, we got it. Cool. So that is good. That's what we want. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to keep we kind of want to remember the previous chats. That way we can, when we call this get method, we don't just hard code something in there. We can actually return that list of previous chats. So to do that, I think what I'm going to do is create, I'm going to create a new folder in here called data, I guess, and then previous chat archive. And this is basically just a class that's going to have a list of chat data. And there's probably other ways to doing this, but this is the first one I thought of. And so now whenever we come into this controller, we want to get that previous chat archive. And I want to store that into a variable that I can use later. All right. So now in here, I'm just going to return previous chat archive. Because that is, let's see. Oh. .chats. Because that is an IA enumerable. It's a list. So list inherits or implements IA enumerable. So we can do that. Now, obviously, we have to populate this. And we're using dependency injection here. If you notice, we just pass this into our constructor. And in order to do that, we need to, on the startup, we need to add this to our services. So we can do services dot add singleton. And before I go too far, we really have three choices here. We have add singleton, add scoped, and add transient. Add singleton means we're only going to ever have one instance of this. And that's what we want in this case, because we want to maintain one instance of the chats in memory. If we wanted to do something different for each HTTP request, we would want to do add transient or add scoped. I don't remember which one is which or what the difference is, but in this case it doesn't really matter. We'll do add singleton, and we have to pass in the type here. So this is going to be previous chat archive. And there we go. So that should be all we have to do to inject that previous chat archive into this controller. But we still don't have any items in here. So probably what we need to do, actually I just was thinking about it, we need to initialize this to an empty list. Otherwise, we'll probably get a null reference exception later. But aside from that, we need to start populating this chat archive. So I think what I'm going to do is in the chat hub, where we actually receive this message, we need to do the same type of thing here. So we need to do public chat hub. So we're just going to create a constructor here. Previous chat archive. Previous chat archive, and let's just create a field for that. And now here, whenever we receive a new message from a person, we're just going to add it to that archive. So previous chat archive dot chat dot add new chat item, where user equals user and message equals message. Okay, should we see if it works? I'm going to debug this because I'm not entirely sure if it will work. So let's just set some breakpoints. And I'm going to turn off WebAssembly debugging because we're not debugging WebAssembly in this case, we're just debugging it on the server side. And it does slow things down. So I've already gone ahead and commented this out. If you are following along and you want to disable WebAssembly debugging, you're going to want to comment this line out. That way you won't have to deal with that. So let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. Alright, so when we go to that room, the first thing we should see is a previous chat archive getting injected into our chat hub. And it looks like it successfully is getting injected here. And obviously there's nothing in the chats yet. So that's what we expected. Let's go ahead and run. And again, in this control, now we're in the controller trying to get the list of chats, and there is none. So that all makes sense. So we have nothing. Let's go ahead and add a chat. Okay, and again, we're injecting this into the chat hub because the chat hub is different every time. And we're going to be adding this now to this previous chat archive. So you see now this has one item in it. And this is the one that we're sending right now. Okay. So now if somebody else comes into this room on a different tab, let's see if this works. We're inside the get method in the controller, and we're getting those chats, and look at that. It actually did work. We have a list of chats here with one item in it, and that is the correct one. So now we're able to see that we got the entire list of chats that was in there before we got to the room. So that's good. I think the next thing I want to do then is create multiple rooms so that you can chat into different chat rooms, basically. Kind of think of Slack or something like that, where you may have different areas and you want to keep those areas separate. So first thing I want to do, I think, is edit the navigation of this website, because if we run it right now, you'll notice we have home, counter, and fetch data, and we don't care about those anymore. So let's just change those. So this counter one will change to room 1, and we need to change the link there to room 1, and we'll make one for room 2, and we'll update the reference there to room 2. And we don't have a room 2 yet, so let's do that. Just going to copy everything from in here and create a new page, a new component here in Blazor. Alright, so update this to room 2, and if everything works, we should see at least 2 rooms right now that we can get to from our navigation. So let's try that. Alright, we got here from this one, and we got here from this one, and it should, because we haven't actually done anything different between these rooms, we actually will get the messages no matter what room we're in, which is not what we want. So let's change a few things here. The first thing we need to do is change the previous chat archive thing that we just did. Right now it's a list of chat data, and that's fine when we have one room. But if we have more than one room, we should probably make that a dictionary. That way we don't have to, or that way we can query it basically based off of what room we're in. We would pass in the room name as the dictionary key, and that would give us back a list of chat data. Alright, let's update that. And let's see, where are we all referencing this? Here, obviously. And we're going to take in a parameter now to this function, room name. And let's see. I think what I'm going to do is, if you don't specify a parameter to this HTTP GET, it assumes that it's at the base address. So if I do localhost/chat, this is going to be the first one, or this is going to be the one that gets executed because it doesn't have any route. But we can specify a route here, and in fact we're going to specify a wildcard route room name so that we can pass in whatever we want, and this will get passed in as a parameter to this method. So from route string room name. Okay, so in here then, this is a dictionary now, this chats. So we should just be able to reference by room name. Now, this room may not exist in the chat archive, so we probably shouldn't just assume it does. If previous chat archive .chats contains key room name, we'll return it. Otherwise, we'll just return a an empty chat data array. Suppose I could have just returned null there, but oh well. So I think that should work. Now, when we come to the chat controller, or the chat hub, because this is where actually the messages are flowing into and out of, we want to add a new parameter here for room name. And now if we have that, we can check to see if the previous chat archive .chats contains key. So if it contains that room name, we're going to add this new thing to the list. Because remember, this is a dictionary where the key is a string and the value is a list of chat data. So we should only have to do room name here, because this whole thing is going to return back a list of chat data, and now we're just going to add a new one. So if it doesn't already exist, we want to add a new one where the key is room name, and we're going to set it equal to a new list. And inside that list, we're going to have one item, which is the chat data that we were talking about. Probably I should probably actually do that slightly differently. Chat data. I'm just gonna put that there. That way we aren't duplicating our code all over the place. Okay. Do you think that's going to work? I think it'll partially work. We'll see. So if I come into room 1 and I say me, hello world, and I send that, Oh, we got an unhandled exception. So let's see what's going on. Oh, we never actually put the room name in our message that we sent. So in here, we're sending a message, we're passing in the user, the message, but we're not actually passing the name of the room. I'm not sure if that was the error that it was referring to, but it certainly isn't helping anything. So let's put room 1 there, and on that other room, let's put room 2. Alright, let's see if that works. If it doesn't, whoops. I put room 1 again. Room 2. Alright. Yeah, that worked. Okay, good. So if I come in room 2 now, there's nothing there. If I come back to room 1, oh, we have another exception. Let's see what this is. Let's actually debug through this and see what's going wrong. It's probably something here in this get function, because the chat hub is working fine, because we did see that message go through the first time. Oh, yeah. I know. We passed in chat here, but we didn't actually. So in the chat controller, it doesn't know what the room name is, because we didn't actually specify that. We just put the room name in at the chat hub when we actually send the message, but we didn't actually put it in the chat controller when we went to get the previous messages. So we got to put it in both places. So put it there, chat room 1, and then the other one we'll put chat room 2. Okay, let's try that one more time, hopefully. All right. Okay, nothing here, which we expected because we didn't have anything in chat in room 2. And in room 1 we have it back again, so that's great. I think we still have a problem though. Let's just check something. If another tab is in room 2 and they send a message, will room 1 pick it up? I think it will. Yeah. So the chat hub does not know the difference between the rooms. It's just taking all of them, and because what we're doing here in the chat hub is we're saying send a message to all clients, not just to the room that we were in, but to all clients, which includes room 1 and room 2. And really what we should be doing here is we should be only sending it to the rooms that it should be in. So probably the best way to do it would be if we register each room to its own group in SignalR, because SignalR basically needs to know who to send these messages to. Right now we're doing clients.all, so all clients will get the message. We could do something like this too. I'm just gonna, for proof of concept, I will show you we can do this. We can pass in the room name here on receive message. Receive message is going to go all the way back up into the room, and we're going to get, if we search for that, we're looking for that event hub connection.on receive message, and we're right here. So basically we could add another parameter here for room name, and we could say if room name equals room 1, then do these things. Otherwise, just ignore it, basically. It's not great. Oh, okay. Gotta put another string here. I don't think this is the best solution, but it should work. So let's try that. Put that in room 2. Where are we? Here we are. So this way the room is just going to basically throw out messages that it does not want. So let's try that. And we still have these ones up from before, so I'm just going to refresh these ones. And we don't need this one. So if I'm in room 2, from room 2, see, this one did not get it. But these 2 rooms should be able to chat back and forth. See, this one did get it. So these 2 rooms, since they're both in the same room, can chat back and forth. However, in room 1, it's totally blank, and no matter what we do, we cannot send a message from room 2 to room 1. So maybe that was the best solution, but I'm going to show you a different solution, because most applications are not that simple. You can't just say, oh, I don't want to look at these messages and just throw them out. Different rooms should be registered correctly, and they should be not receiving messages from other rooms. It's like kind of a security thing, right? So I think what we want to do here is actually create another function here in this chat hub. So right now we only have one function, that's send message. But I think what we want to do is register the current room as a client and assign it to a group. So I'm just going to do another thing here. Join room. And this function is going to join this current client, this current connected WebSocket, to this room. And how we can do that is, let's see, clients.groups. No, groups dot add to group async. So we're going to take our current context connection ID, and we're going to take the room name. And if we do that, we're going to be assigned to this group. Then later, all we have to do, instead of doing clients.all, we can do clients.group room name dot send async, and we don't need the room name here anymore. And this will make it so that we are sending the messages to that room and to nobody else but that room. And I think that's going to be the better way to do this. So let's go ahead and actually join the room at the start of each of these. So let's see, we are calling the hub connection.start right here. And similarly to calling send message, we're going to do that up here, but we're just going to do join room, and we're going to say room 1. Okay, and we'll await that so that we are not getting ahead of ourselves. And now here, we shouldn't need the room name anymore. We should just know that anything coming to this room should be in this room. I think that's the more correct way of doing this. So I'm going to put this back into room 2 as well. And I think I also want to update or put this into room 2. All right, let's give that a shot. All right, so when we clicked this, we joined this room. I'm gonna open up some new tabs. So room 1, this room, this one joined the room, and room 2, this one's in room 2 right now. So if we send a message from here, we shouldn't get it in room 2 if we did it correctly. And we did not, which is good. That's what we did not want to see that message. Now in room 1 we should be able to still go back and forth. And look at that. We have people talking back and forth within the room without potentially having a security breach of sending messages to rooms that they're not even in. So that's perfect. That's what we want. I think that's about all I wanted to do today, but I do want to show you one more thing. So these rooms are pretty much identical, right? So we can actually combine them into one component because Blazor is a component-based model, and if they're the same component, might as well use them in the same way without duplicating all of our code. And in fact, this will be great because if we do that, we won't have to have room 3, room 4, and so on and so forth. All we have to do is have one room and specify the room name as a parameter, and then we can have as many rooms as we want. So I'm going to just create another room here. Let's call it room.razor. And I'm going to take all of room 1's code and paste it in there. And here I'm gonna do this, which basically stands for a parameter. And in here we're gonna do parameter string room1. And I'm not sure if that has to be, whoops, not room1, room name. Not sure if that has to be case sensitive or not. I don't think it is, but just to be safe. And this has to be public. All of your parameters has to be public. So now, instead of passing in room 1 everywhere, we should be able to pass room name. And room name is just achieved by getting the whatever was after the slash in our URL. So we go chat room. Well, we have to actually make that a variable, or pass it in as a variable. And there, and there. Do we have any other ones? Room 1. Okay, room 1 does not exist anymore, so that should be it. Now I'm gonna just delete room 1 and room 2. We don't need them anymore. And now in our navigation, we actually can have as many rooms as we want. So let's create 2 more. Room 3, room 4, and we just got to make sure we have this as a unique URL here, because that URL is going to end up being our room name. So let's go ahead and try this out. Okay, room 1. We'll just have somebody else join that same room. And they were successfully able to talk back and forth. Now let's have them go to room 2. Oh, and you notice here actually, it still looks like room 1. And that's actually by design. If we refresh, it'll be new. And then we won't be able to talk to each other. But because this is actually the same component, Blazor will see that it's the same component and it won't destroy it. It'll just reuse it, which is a good thing for the most part. But whenever we change here, it's not going to be doing anything. So to get around that, what we need to do is we actually need to come into our room, and we don't want to do this on initialized anymore. We want to do this on okay, what is it? Override on parameters set async. and it messed up my formatting a little bit. So this should, it should basically refresh all of these things whenever the parameter changes. And the parameter in our case is the room name. So all these things will change. Now, the other thing we need to do though is set messages dot clear and user input, set that back to empty and set message input back to empty. And I'll show you why, because if we don't, this is what will happen. And actually, we don't even use this variable in the global context. We just use it here, so I'll just do that. Any of these kind of more global variables, we need to make sure that we set back to something else. Otherwise, they're going to be carried over. So if we don't, let's say we don't do those three things. I'll show you what happens. So we're in room 2, and we have room 2, and we have test. Okay, now we go to room 3, and still nothing happened. Now, we are actually in room 3, though. So if I, on a different tab, come into room 3, and I hit send, well, now we're getting this one twice. Let's see what's going on. Okay, not sure what was happening here. I think it's because we're not clearing that list. So let's go ahead and clear this list. And basically we're clearing the list and we're clearing out the text boxes that the person's typing in every time the parameter changes, which basically reloads the entire page. Get rid of all these other ones. So if we're in room 2, and I'll open up another one in room 2, and we do room 2 test. Okay, we got it in both of them. Now we switch to room 3. We don't have anything. Room 3 test. See, we're not getting it in room 2 anymore. Now we switch to room 3. We have the previous message. Room 3 again. Test again. And you notice we're going back and forth now. So this is working correctly. It was just because we did not clear out that list. Now, we do still have our previous messages in here because we were in room 2 at one point. Then we moved away. Then we came back. So we actually did get this message from before, which is good. That's what we wanted. But yeah, I think this is all working now. We can have as many rooms as we want. So in the next episode, we covered a lot in this one. I think in the next one, I want to maybe try having actual users, maybe do some kind of basic authentication. I probably won't do actual username and passwords and those types of things. And maybe we'll do something along the lines of having notifications, like if you are subscribed to room 3, but you're not actually in room 3, but maybe a new message has come in. Maybe you have a little red notification saying that you have a new message or something like that. I think we'll try to tackle that next time. That'd be a good place to take this. So yeah, if you have any other suggestions or other ideas that you want me to cover with Blazor or SignalR or anything else, just let me know. And yeah, thanks for watching.